I'm Vanessa, 32, and I thought I had everything under control. After years of grinding as an architect, I'd built a life. I was proud of my own space, my own rules. But one summer evening, my world tilted. I was at my parents' place expecting a quiet dinner when my brother dropped a bomb. "We're moving in Saturday." He grinned, his voice dripping with confidence. Mom and Dad already approved. His wife nodded, her eyes glinting with expectation, while my parents sat there smug as if it was all decided. I froze. My home, my sanctuary, wasn't theirs to claim. "You didn't even ask me," I said, my voice sharp. My brother laughed it off, saying, "Family shares right." His wife chimed in, "It's for the best." My parents leaned in, their expressions heavy with that old familiar pressure. My stomach churned. This wasn't just about a house. It was about them trampling over everything I'd worked for. When they actually moved into my house, I reached for my phone. My brother's grin vanished. His wife's eyes widened, and my parents exchanged panicked glances. "What are you doing?" my brother snapped. I didn't answer, just kept my gaze steady. My heart raced, but I felt a spark of control return. What happened next? Well, let's just say it wasn't the end of their plan or mine. Hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up to family overstepping your boundaries. Drop a comment with your story. When did you have to draw the line? Let's talk. Growing up just outside Portland wasn't always easy. I'm Vanessa, and my childhood was a constant tug of war for attention in a family that seemed to have one set of rules for me and another for my brother Kyle Ford. Mom Nancy Ford and Dad David Ford poured their energy into Kyle, their golden boy, even when he stumbled. At 7, I'd watch Kyle, 3 years older, break a vase roughhousing indoors, only for Mom to laugh it off, as boys being boys. When I spilled juice once, though, Dad's stern look made me feel like I'd committed a crime. Their favoritism wasn't subtle. It was a fact of life in our small, weathered house on the edge of Portland, Maine. Kyle thrived on their leniency. He'd skip chores knowing Mom would cover for him, saying he was too tired from school. I'd scrub dishes after dinner, my hands wrinkled from soapy water, while Kyle sprawled on the couch, charming Dad with stories of his latest basketball game. By middle school, I was earning straight A's, but my report cards barely got a glance. Kyle's C's, though, earned him a pat on the back and a new pair of sneakers for trying hard. I once overheard Mom tell a neighbor, "Vanessa's fine, she's so independent. Kyle needs us more." That stung, but I swallowed it, vowing to prove I didn't need their applause. At 12, I found my escape in a library book on architecture. The clean lines of blueprints, the logic of buildings, it was a world where effort mattered, not favoritism. I'd sketch houses in my notebook, dreaming of a place that was mine alone. Kyle, meanwhile, leaned into Mom and Dad's indulgence. At 15, he crashed Dad's old pickup during a joyride. Instead of grounding him, they bought him a bike to keep him out of trouble. I walked to school that year, saving my lunch money for art supplies. Their double standards shaped us. I learned to rely on myself. Kyle learned he could always fall back on them. One summer when I was 14, I built a treehouse in our backyard. I spent weeks hammering boards, measuring angles, proud of every nail I drove in straight. Kyle mocked it, saying it was just a kid's thing, but Mom and Dad didn't even come out to see it. A month later, Kyle half-heartedly started a birdhouse project for school, and they spent hours helping him, praising his creativity. I stopped showing them my sketches after that. It wasn't about jealousy, I just realized they'd never see me the way they saw him. By high school, I was working weekends at a local diner, saving for college, while Kyle coasted, confident Mom and Dad would fix his messes. That dynamic followed us into adulthood. Kyle, now 35, married Lisa Ford, a 34-year-old office clerk, and they had a daughter, Hannah Ford, who's 10. Their life's a mess of unpaid bills and shaky jobs, but Kyle still expects handouts, believing family owes him. Lisa, quiet and loyal, goes along with his plans, thinking my success should be shared. I, on the other hand, poured everything into becoming an architect. After college, I landed a job designing homes in Portland, each project a step toward my dream, a house of my own free from anyone's claim. My first big break was a community center project that won local praise, letting me save enough for a down payment. Every choice I made was about standing on my own, unlike Kyle, who still leaned on mom and dad. Kyle's latest plan was no surprise. Struggling financially, he saw my home as his family's ticket to stability, a better place for Hannah, a fresh start for him and Lisa. But it wasn't his to take. The seeds of that entitlement were planted in our childhood, watered by mom and dad's endless favoritism. Back then, I was the kid who learned to fight for herself. After years of hustle, I found my perfect home. Now at 32, I'd spent 10 years as an architect working late, skipping trips, and saving every dollar. My designs for homes and a community center in Portland, Maine, built my name and my savings. When I found a $500,000 house just outside the city, I knew it was mine. I handled the mortgage negotiations, signed the papers, and stood in the empty rooms proud of what I'd achieved alone. This house wasn't just walls and windows, it was my proof that I didn't need anyone's help to make it. I decided to share the milestone with a housewarming party in the backyard garden. I invited mom, dad, Kyle, Lisa, and my niece Hannah, along with extended family, my cousin Ethan Stone, his sister Sarah Brooks, my uncle Mark Ford, and my aunt Diane Morgan. I set up tables with snacks, hung string lights, and played soft music for a warm summer afternoon. During the tour, I showed off the open kitchen and my favorite workspace nook. Ethan, my cousin, praised the layout, saying it fit my style perfectly. Sarah, his sister, snapped photos, smiling. Mom and Dad gave quick nods, their compliments brief, like they didn't see why this mattered so much. While we ate in the garden, Kyle leaned in and said, "This place would be perfect for us and Hannah." His casual tone didn't fool me. Lisa added, "It's way bigger than our apartment. Hannah would love it." I forced a smile, but I tensed. Their words sounded like they were claiming my space. Mom nodded slightly, and Dad stayed silent, his gaze on Kyle. I tried to ignore it, hoping it was just talk, but doubt crept in. As the evening went on, Kyle pressed further. "You've got so much room," he said, pointing at the garden. "It's made for a family." Lisa echoed, "Our place is too small. This would be a game changer." Hannah chased a ball nearby, unaware of their hints. Kyle's comments weren't praise, they were calculated. I shifted the topic to a work project, but Kyle cut in. "You're lucky to have all this. Not everyone gets that chance." His words stung, reducing my hard work to luck, and I gripped my glass tightly. Then I noticed more. Lisa lingered near the entry, eyeing the key rack closely. Mom pulled me aside, saying Kyle's struggling. A house like this could help them. Her tone carried that old expectation, like my success was for sharing. Dad said nothing, his silence backing her up. My Uncle Mark and Aunt Diane added vague comments about family sticking together, their smiles stiff. Ethan, my cousin, gave me a knowing look, sensing my unease. Sarah, his sister, tried a joke to ease the tension, but it didn't work. When the party ended, I felt uneasy. Kyle and Lisa's remarks weren't casual, they were testing my limits. Mom's words and Dad's silence confirmed they saw my home as theirs to use. I'd earned this house through years of sacrifice, from late-night designs to every saved penny. As I locked the door, their hints weighed on me. Kyle and Lisa didn't respect my boundaries, and I knew I had to stay firm to protect what was mine. Friday evenings at Mom and Dad's were usually relaxed, but this one felt different. I arrived at their house expecting the usual chatter and home-cooked meal. Instead, the air was thick with tension as soon as I walked in. Mom, Dad, Kyle, Lisa, and Hannah were there, along with Ethan and Sarah. Mark and Diane, who often skipped these dinners, weren't present. I sat down, trying to keep things light, but Kyle's smirk told me something was coming. Before the food was even served, he leaned forward and dropped the bomb. "We're moving into your place next week," he said, his voice smug. "Mom and Dad already said it's fine. Family helps family. Right?" I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. My house isn't up for grabs, I said firmly. It's my home, Kyle, not a crash pad for you, Lisa and Hannah. His smirk faded, replaced by a scowl. Lisa jumped in, her tone sharp. Vanessa, we need a stable place for Hannah. You've got all that space, why can't you share? I took a breath, keeping my voice steady. I worked for that house. It's mine, not a family timeshare. You don't get to decide who lives there. Kyle scoffed, leaning back. You've always been so selfish, he said. This is about helping your niece. Mom's voice cut through. Vanessa, Kyle's struggling. You're doing fine, why can't you help your brother? Her words hit like a slap, echoing the favoritism I'd grown up with. Dad nodded, adding, It's what families do. I tensed, feeling cornered. I've supported myself since I was a kid, I said. I'm not obligated to fix Kyle's problems. Lisa's eyes narrowed. Hannah deserves better than our cramped apartment. You're putting yourself over a child. Her accusation stung, but I held my ground. This isn't about Hannah, it's about you and Kyle expecting handouts. The room erupted. Kyle raised his voice, saying I'd always been jealous of him. Mom called me ungrateful, insisting I owed them for raising me. Dad stayed quiet after his comment, but his stern look backed Mom up. I felt the weight of their judgment, like I was the kid being scolded again. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ethan, sitting across the table. You're right to stand up. Don't let them guilt you. His support was a small lifeline, but it didn't ease the pressure. Sarah, ever the peacemaker, tried to calm things down. Can't we find a compromise? She said softly. Maybe Vanessa could help in another way. Her words, meant to help, only fueled Kyle. Compromise, he snapped. She's got a mansion and won't share it. I clenched my fists under the table. It's not a mansion, it's my home, bought with my money. You don't get to demand it. Kyle laughed bitterly. You think you're better than us, don't you? Mom piled on, saying I was breaking the family apart. Lisa kept bringing up Hannah as if I didn't care about my niece. I looked at Hannah, sitting quietly, her eyes on her plate. She didn't deserve to be caught in this, but I wasn't the one dragging her into it. You're twisting this, I said to Lisa. I love Hannah, but that doesn't mean you get my house. The argument spiraled. Mom recounted every time they'd helped me, like letting me live at home during college, ignoring that I'd paid rent. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. You're being stubborn, Vanessa. Kyle needs this. I shook my head, exhausted. What Kyle needs is to take responsibility, not take my home. Sarah tried again, suggesting we talk later to cool off, but Kyle cut her off, saying I was the problem. Ethan stayed silent after his text, but his nod gave me strength. The room felt suffocating, their voices piling on, blaming me for standing my ground. By the end, I was done. I stood up, grabbing my coat. My house is mine, I said, looking at Kyle, then Mom and Dad. You don't get to decide what I do with it. I walked out, their words ringing in my ears. They'd crossed a line and I wasn't backing down. My home was my boundary, and I'd protect it no matter what they thought of me. Monday morning felt like any other workday, but that illusion shattered when I heard a truck pull into my driveway. I glanced out the window of my home in Portland, Maine, and saw Kyle, Lisa, Mom, and Dad unloading boxes. My niece Hannah stood off to the side, looking unsure. I stepped outside, my pulse quickening as Kyle pulled a key from his pocket, the spare I'd noticed missing after the housewarming. He strode toward my front door, acting like he owned the place. What are you doing? I demanded, blocking the porch. You can't just show up and move in. Kyle smirked, dangling the key. We're family, Vanessa. Mom and Dad said it's fine. Hannah needs this. Lisa nodded, adding, You've got room. It's for your niece. Mom chimed in, her voice firm. You have to help your brother and granddaughter. Dad stood by the truck, arms crossed, saying nothing but clearly backing them. I tensed, my voice sharp. You stole my key. This is my house, not yours. Get out. Kyle laughed, brushing past me. We're already here. Stop being dramatic. I wasn't backing down. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Ms. Karen Walsh, who'd handled my home purchase. I need confirmation of my property rights, I told her loud enough for them to hear. She confirmed I was the sole owner and advised me to call the police if they wouldn't leave. Kyle kept unloading boxes, ignoring me. Lisa said, Vanessa, don't make this hard. We're family. Mom added, you're being selfish. Think of Hannah. I clenched my jaw. Their words hitting old wounds, but I dialed the sheriff's office. Sheriff Thomas Perry arrived within 20 minutes, his patrol car pulling up quietly. I explained the situation. My family was trying to move in without permission using a stolen key. Sheriff Perry, a calm man with a no-nonsense air, approached Kyle. Sir, you need to leave. This is private property. Kyle's face reddened, his voice rising. This is my sister's house. We're family. The sheriff didn't flinch. Doesn't matter. She's the owner. You're trespassing. He turned to Mom and Dad. You all need to go, or I'll issue citations. Lisa's shoulders slumped, her voice soft but bitter. Vanessa, you'd rather call the cops than help us. I shook my head. You didn't ask, you tried to take. There's a difference. Kyle threw a box back into the truck, muttering, You'll regret this. Mom stepped forward, pleading. Vanessa, we raised you better than this. Kyle needs help. Dad finally spoke, his tone heavy. You're tearing us apart. I stood firm. You're the ones crossing the line. My home isn't your solution. Sheriff Perry stayed until they packed up. Hannah climbed into the truck, avoiding my eyes, and I felt a pang. She was caught in their mess. Lisa shot me a disappointed look, like I'd failed her. Kyle slammed the truck door, still fuming. Mom and Dad lingered, Mom saying, You're choosing a house over family. I didn't respond, just watched as they drove off. The sheriff tipped his hat. Call if they come back, he said, then left. I locked the door, my hands shaking, feeling both relieved and drained. I'd protected my home, but the cost was clear. Their words, selfish, ungrateful, echoed, stirring up years of feeling sidelined. I'd spent a decade building my life, from late nights designing buildings to saving for this house. They saw it as theirs to claim, just like they'd always seen Kyle's needs as my burden. Standing in my quiet living room, I knew I'd done the right thing, even if it hurt. My home was my boundary, and I'd fought to keep it mine. After the sheriff left, I thought things might calm down, but I was wrong. The next evening, while I was sketching designs in my home office in Portland, Maine, my phone buzzed with notifications. Kyle and Lisa had gone live on Facebook, their faces filling my screen as I opened the app. Vanessa's selfish, Kyle said, his voice loud. She kicked us out, didn't care about her own niece Hannah. Lisa nodded, her eyes teary. She called the cops on her own family. Who does that? My chest tightened as I watched their words cutting deep, but I kept scrolling, dreading what came next. The comments section exploded. Mom wrote, Vanessa's always put herself first. It's disappointing. Dad added. She turned her back on family. My Uncle Mark chimed in. Hannah deserves better than this. My Aunt Diane typed, shame on you, Vanessa. Their words drew others and cousins I hadn't seen in years, old family friends from Portland, even neighbors I barely knew. The live stream spread like wildfire, each comment piling on, accusing me of being cold, ungrateful, heartless. I sat frozen, my phone glowing with their judgment, wondering how it had come to this. By morning, my inbox was flooded. A cousin, Rachel, messaged, How could you do this to Kyle? An old friend, Jenny, wrote, I thought you were better than this. Even my great-aunt Clara sent a long text calling me too proud for refusing to help Hannah. The messages kept coming, each one echoing the livestream's narrative. I was the villain, the one tearing the family apart. I felt isolated, like the whole community was against me. Social media amplified their voices, turning a private dispute into a public shaming. I muted my phone, but the pressure didn't stop. Then a message from Ethan popped up. Don't let them get to you, he wrote. They did this to me when I moved out west, guilt-tripped me for not helping enough. You're not alone. His words were a lifeline. He shared how he'd faced similar pressure from mom and dad years ago when he refused to bail Kyle out of a bad lease. "They always pick his side," he texted. "But you're right to protect your space." I replied, thanking him, and felt a small weight lift. Knowing Ethan understood made me feel less like an outcast. I went back to the live stream, now saved as a video with hundreds of views. Kyle was still talking, saying I'd abandoned Hannah for my fancy house. Lisa added, "She doesn't care about family values." Mom's next comment stung most. "We raised her to be generous, but she's chosen greed." Diane wrote, "Hannah's the real victim here." The accusations twisted my intentions, painting me as someone I wasn't. I'd worked 10 years for my home, saving every dollar, designing buildings late into the night. They didn't see that. They saw only what Kyle needed. The messages kept pouring in. A distant cousin Michael called me stuck up. A family friend Linda said I'd hurt poor Hannah. I stopped reading, my hands shaking. The community I'd grown up with now felt like a mob rallied by Kyle's live stream. I thought about responding, posting my side, but what could I say? They'd already decided who I was. I felt trapped, the weight of their words pressing down, making me question if I'd been too harsh. But I remembered the truck in my driveway, the stolen key, their refusal to listen. I wasn't wrong to stand my ground. Ethan's texts kept me grounded. He sent another. "They'll move on eventually. Stay strong." His story about resisting family pressure reminded me I wasn't the only one who'd faced this. He'd left Portland to escape their expectations, building his own life despite their criticism. I leaned on that, knowing someone saw my side. The live stream and messages hurt, but they didn't change the truth. My home was mine, earned through my own work. Kyle and Lisa's public attack was just another attempt to guilt me, and I wouldn't let it break me. That fall, standing in my quiet home in Portland, Maine, I sought help to move forward. The pain from my family's actions, their demands, the stolen key, the live stream still lingered. I started therapy with Dr. Ellen Reed, a therapist known for her calm insight. In our first session, I shared how Kyle's entitlement, mom and dad's favoritism, and Lisa's accusations had worn me down. Dr. Reed asked, "What do you owe them?" Her question made me realize my family didn't respect my hard-earned home or my rights. She helped me see that protecting my boundaries was my priority, not their demands. I left feeling stronger, ready to let go. I stopped answering Kyle's calls, ignoring his voicemails demanding we fix this. Lisa's texts accusing me of abandoning Hannah went unanswered. Mom sent messages, her voice soft. "We're still family." Dad's rare texts urged me to make things right. I blocked them all. It hurt, but Dr. Reed's words stuck. Family doesn't mean endless obligation. By winter, I'd cut contact with Kyle, Lisa, mom, and dad. The silence was heavy but freeing, giving me space to heal. Kyle and Lisa's live stream backfired. Their attempt to shame me turned Portland's community against them. A neighbor, Mrs. Carter, commented online, "Vanessa earned her home." "You can't claim it." Others agreed, exposing Kyle's habit of seeking handouts. Their credibility faded, and without my house they struggled. Kyle took unstable jobs, and Lisa's social media grew silent. Their refusal to plan for themselves left them stuck, their complaints ignored by a fed-up community. Mom and dad faced their own consequences. Losing me left them isolated, reliant on Kyle, who couldn't support them. Ethan told me they'd asked him for money, but he'd set his own boundaries. Mom hinted at regret in messages to Sarah, but neither she nor dad questioned their favoritism toward Kyle. Their stubbornness cost them their daughter and a wider family, leaving them alone with their choices. I felt a pang for them, but I couldn't fix their mistakes. Therapy with Dr. Reed became my anchor. She helped me see how mom and dad's support always favored Kyle, dismissing my efforts. My home, bought with years of late-night designs and savings, was mine alone. Cutting contact wasn't loss, it was freedom. I reconnected with Ethan, who understood my choice. Over coffee, he said, "They'll never change, but you can." I built a new circle: work friends, a supportive neighbor, a neutral cousin. I missed Hannah's laughter but hoped she'd understand one day. My lesson was clear: self-respect trumps unhealthy family ties. My home symbolized my independence, a boundary I'd fought for. Kyle, Lisa, Mom and Dad faced their consequences for crossing it. Dr. Reed taught me boundaries aren't selfish, they're essential. I'd built a life I was proud of, and I'd keep it that way. To everyone listening, think about your own boundaries. Have you had to set them with family? What did you learn? Share below, I'd love to hear. Thank you for following my story. Your support means everything. Please subscribe and join me for more stories about standing strong.